All right, let's get into it here. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now. I'm Chase Sr. No matter where you are, how you're tuned in, greatly appreciate all of you for making today's show a part of your day. Hope you're having a great weekend, and keep in mind, we'll be live for this Week 9 matchup between the Eagles and the Jags, so be sure to join us and hit that subscribe button. The best place to experience an Eagles game day outside of being at the actual game. You know what I want you to do. Just hit that sub button down below for year-round and daily coverage of the Birds. Flipping the Bird 85, getting us started with our mailbag with the $10 super chat. And I imagine the people are going to propose a lot of trade scenarios with the deadline coming up on Tuesday. I could see Howie Roseman trading for Jaguars edge rusher Travon Walker on Monday. A 2025 second rounder and a fifth rounder should do it. I'm watching Braveheart right now, and I'm jacked up on freedom. Let's go. I love that. Freedom running through your veins, freedom running through the veins of a lot of Americans all across the United States. And did you mention that because a big decision day is coming up on Tuesday? Yeah, it's the NFL trade deadline, but also Election Day is coming up. No, in all seriousness, could Howie trade for Travon Walker? The Jags clearly are not going to make the playoffs. They're off to an awful start this year. They have 2 wins. Are they really going to give up already on Travon Walker? Now, when they drafted him, I disagreed fully and adamantly with that choice. They fell in love with his athleticism and his pre-draft testing. The choice was always Aiden Hutchinson, who prior to him breaking his leg a few weeks ago against the Cowboys was having a Defensive Player of the Year campaign. He was tremendous. Travon Walker is an athlete, but he's not a seasoned, defined edge rusher like Aiden Hutchinson, who has moves and hustle. You can't just win at the NFL level with twitch, bend, and speed. And that's what Travon Walker has had to rely on a little bit too much. And so will its second-round pick get it done? That would signal to me that the Jags are just fully giving up on the player. This year, he's been pretty good. He has 6.5 sacks. He had 10 last year. But my point is, he's not the player of Aiden Hutchinson. Second rounder and a fifth rounder, I just don't think the Jags are going to give up on him already, especially with him showing some signs of life, and he's only 24 years old. But you know that Howie always loves those players with good pedigree. Dennis Designs. Sidney Brown is back. Where do you put him? He needs to be on the field. Well, you think about this Eagles team right now and where they're at, they're sitting in a really good position on the defensive side of the ball. During this 3-game winning streak, I know that the offense has found an identity, but this Eagles defense has also really helped to carry them. They had those 5 sacks against Cleveland. They had the 8 sacks against the New York Giants. They only had 1 sack of Joe Burrow, but the game plan for Cincinnati, get rid of the ball quickly, but they held up really well on that back end. And Philadelphia right now, 7th in points per game, 7th in yards per game, 10th in points per play, 6th in yards per play, and in the red zone, they're really good. They buckled down inside the 20, 6th in opposing red zone scoring percentage. And then against the run, they're 7th in rushes per game, 15th in yards per rush, 8th in rushing yards per game, 5th in rushing touchdowns, so that's not bad. And against the pass, yards per pass, they're 7th. Passing yards per game, they're 10th. Their sack percentage is 6th. Those numbers inflated a little bit with what they did against Cleveland and New York. But my point here in talking about this Eagles defense, I think it goes to show you that Vic Fangio really likes his personnel. There's a reason why the Eagles moved on from Devin White. Nakobe Dean, Zach Bond are playing really well. We're seeing Nolan Smith, Jalen Carter, Moro Ajomo, Thomas Booker, Milton Williams, Brandon Graham, Josh Sweat, Bryce Huff turning the corner. They're playing really well. And at corner, Quinyon Mitchell, Darius Slay, Cooper DeJean, they've been good. At the safety spot, Reed Blankenship and C.J. Gardner-Johnson, they're also playing at a good level. And so when you think about the Eagles making a move as far as a trade, I don't know if they need to. Because this defense looks to be legit. And then, of course, they're going to have some bad games, but they've had some really stellar performances this year. And if you want to play Sidney Brown, where do you play him? You're not going to put him ahead of Cooper DeJean in the slot. you're not going to start him over C.J. Gardner-Johnson or Reed Blankenship. Now, can you mix him in from time to time? For sure. And I imagine they're still trying to get him acclimated coming off that torn ACL. Right now, his role, primary special teamer, if an injury does happen at that safety spot, he does serve as a really good depth piece. I do like his versatility, how you can play him all around the field. But right now, I don't see who he takes the place up to get snaps. Dragon, our guy, tuned in from Serbia. Who would you rather have for a first-round pick in a trade, Myles Garrett or Maxx Crosby? That's a really, really good question. Myles Garrett is the better player, but he's also older. Maxx Crosby isn't quite to the level of Myles Garrett, still elite, but a little bit younger. And so if I traded a first-round pick for a player to win the Super Bowl, I might go Myles Garrett. He's actually pretty affordable, and both of them are pretty affordable for the impact that they have and how much edge rushers are getting paid. Nick Bosa, for instance, he's making $34 million per year. Myles Garrett's at 25. Maxx Crosby's right in that area. So I would love both players. If I'm going all in to win a Super Bowl this year, I'd probably go Myles Garrett, but I love Maxx Crosby. He's probably the better city fit because Eagles fans would absolutely love how he plays the game. He plays it with hustle, tenacity, aggressiveness, and hunger like Brandon Graham and Trent Cole. Matt Levinson, do you think the Eagles trade for Khalil Mack? I'm sure it wouldn't take much to get him. He fits the system, he knows it, and he can still rush the passer. So I talked about Khalil Mack a few weeks ago, and my argument for why the Eagles could trade for him, he's 33 years old, expiring year on his contract. Chargers probably not going to re-sign an older player. So do they move off of an older player who they don't envision being a part of their core and get some value back for him? And for Khalil Mack, he played under Vic Fangio. And in 2018 with the Chicago Bears, he had 12.5 sacks. So he knows the scheme. He'd be a good scheme fit. Mack did have 17 sacks last year in his age 32 season. He had 5 or 6, which came in one game. Even if you take that game away, still had, 11 sacks? And he was a Pro Bowler and a really good defender. This year he has 3.5 sacks. Here's why I don't think the Chargers move him. They want Justin Herbert to get playoff experience. And right now, they're in the playoff hunt. So they don't want to move a player that helps them get to the playoffs because Justin Herbert has played in one playoff game. And they might risk losing Mack for nothing just to get Herbert that playoff experience because right now they're in the race in the AFC. And I would go about it in that way because it's really important for their quarterback to get that experience. And Jim Harbaugh's doing a really good job in year one with the Chargers. The Chargers. Game Time, our presenting sponsor for today's Philadelphia Eagles. Now the only app that I use in a very crowded ticketing marketplace. A lot of reasons why I love the Game Time app. Best seats at the lowest price guaranteed. Prices drop as the event gets closer. You'll get the best vantage point and price point. They also have a lot of great deals, like flash deals, where you simply swipe and you're able to save a lot of money. Now, if you download the app, you create an account, you can save additional money by using the code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS. Terms apply. First purchase only. You can also see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. You can access tickets from your phone and easily resell your tickets. We'll be live for Eagles Jags on Sunday. If you want to join us, great. If you want to go to the game, that's awesome. Plenty of tickets available at Lincoln Financial Field. Thanks to Game Time Picks, curation makes it easier to find tickets to sporting events, concerts, comedy shows, and theater events. And you're going to get the lowest price guaranteed. So download the app, use that code CHATSPORTS, $20 off your first purchase. And I promise you, you'll really enjoy what the Game Time app has to offer. We continue to move forward in our mailbag. Cool Rains, Aussie, 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 oi, oi, oi. Who has been the most impressive player on offense and defense? On offense, I think Saquon Barkley's in the running for NFL Offensive Player of the Year. I thought it was hilarious how before the year I was saying on X, on Instagram, on Eagles Now, Saquon Barkley can be the Eagles version of what Christian McCaffrey was for the Niners last year. Saquon Barkley can be an All-Pro. He can become NFL Offensive Player of the Year. And people laughed at that. Saquon is not Christian McCaffrey. What has Saquon done this year? It's been fantastic. And he's one of the leaders in rushing yards, all-purpose yards. Every single game, he is making some type of huge impact throughout the course of it. He's a game breaker. He's a game changer. And he's literally been that diverse, versatile type of player like McCaffrey is, with his ability to run it in between the tackles, get out to the edge, and catch the ball out of the backfield. So I think he's been the most impressive player on offense. How do you not go with A.J. Brown, though? A.J. Brown is the highest graded wide receiver according to Pro Football Focus. And when you look at some of the analytics, he has really distanced himself from other wide receivers. Catch percentage over expected, picking up yards after the catch, explosive plays. So it's very neck and neck between Saquon and A.J. Brown. Defensively, I'd have to go Quinyon Mitchell. Quinyon Mitchell is legitimately, as a rookie, playing at a Pro Bowl, all-pro type of level. Jalen Carter is in the mix as well. Sometimes his impact isn't felt as much on the box score as it is when you watch the tape, because he can really just destruct and blow up plays. Cooper DeJean's been really good his first 3 starts. So those are the players that I'll go with on defense. Matt Levinson with another heater. He's had his eye on Adam Thielen. Makes so much sense, and he's better than Dotson. I brought up Adam Thielen before the Eagles traded for Jahan Dotson. Jahan Dotson, what a weird story. 12 touchdowns his last 2 years. First-round pick out of Penn State. I covered him my previous job when he was at Penn State. Soft hands, good route runner, good 40 speed, a 4.4 guy. But last year he led the Commanders in drop percentage. And in training camp this year, he was getting beat out by Olamide Zaccheaus and Noah Brown. And with Philadelphia, he's barely done anything. Now, his yards per route run is extremely low. That's on the offense. We've also seen Eagles don't really target wide receiver 3. They didn't last year with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. They couldn't get Olamide Zaccheaus involved, couldn't get Julio Jones involved. Now they can't get John Dotson involved. Is Adam Thielen going to make that much of a difference? In theory, when you think about his addition, it does make sense, but I don't think the Eagles will pick up another wide receiver because they already traded a third for Dotson. It's also interesting to see Anaya Smith used as a motion man against Cincinnati. I like motion. It's got me feeling icy. Andrew Nathan, do you think that Howie could trade for Azeez Ojulari? What would be your compensation you'd be willing to give up for a young edge rusher? And would the Giants trade him in the division? Now, I've talked with our Giants host, Marshall Green of Giants Now, about Azeez Ojulari. He's a 24-year-old player with an elite skill set. And when I look at players who you could trade for, you ask yourself, what does that player do well? Does he have a special trait? His special trait is getting after the quarterback and being a really good athlete. And this year, since Kayvon Thibodeau has been out the last few weeks, he has 6 sacks. And year by year, he had 8 sacks as a rookie, 5.5 in year 2, didn't play as much last year, 2.5 sacks in 11 games, 7 games before that. So that's a little bit of a worry. But in 8 games this year, 6 sacks. He's playing for a future contract. So he's really fast. He has bend and twitch. And he can get after the quarterback. Like 22 sacks in what is his 4th year, that's not bad. But he's not good against the run. And I'm not sure if the Giants would trade him inside the division. He was a 2nd-round pick, 50th overall, so he is on an expiring contract. If they fully sell and they want some value back for a player who they don't envision keeping, maybe. It's certainly a good name, and I think he's a good player. Jason Guadalupe, would you rather have Slayton or Rodgers at the cornerback spot? I know that Darius Slay does get some shit from Eagles fans, and some of it is well-deserved, especially after he gets cooked against Tampa Bay and he puts out his resume on X. That was corny. That's not what you should do in the city of Philadelphia. That's like me going on air, being unable to speak, pissing down my leg, choking away a show, releasing that show in front of thousands and millions of people, because we have millions of people who watch this show every month, And then I list my resume out. And I'm like, well, I have done all of this. I was terrible on this show, but I've done all of this. It was just a bad move. I do think that in the grand scheme of things, Darius Slay has performed pretty well. He has an overall PFF grade of 70.3. That's 41st among 201 corners. He has a 72.2 grade. That's 36th among 201 corners. I know that the Eagles are paying him to be a better player, but he's at least held up out there. Some of his other rankings, let's see, anything really stand out? He's ninth in pass breakups with 5. So he's clearly an older player. He's not the player who he once was, but he's actually been pretty good. And the Eagles are so deep at corner with Quinyon thriving, Slay playing well, DeJean in the slot, that Isaiah Rodgers is barely playing. But when he gets on the field, what a play he made against Jamar Chase. Step for step, read his eyes, turned around, addressed the football, batted it up into the awaiting hands of C.J. Gardner-Johnson. A high-level play. All throughout the spring and in the summer, we're hearing Isaiah Rodgers. He can start at corner. The only reason he's not is because Quinyon has been balling as a rookie. So if Slay doesn't play this week because of his groin, I really want to see what Rodgers can do. It's always good to have depth at that corner spot. Carol Hosey, last one. How will Doug Peterson's return impact the team? I don't think it's going to really impact the team at all. Like, you think about the players who were on that Super Bowl team. Lane Johnson, Brandon Graham. That's really it. I'm trying to think right now of the players who were on that Super Bowl team and even players who were here his final year in 2020. A lot of them are gone. And so the players, of course, know, okay, Doug Peterson, yeah, he was the head coach from 2016 through 2020. He won a Super Bowl with Philadelphia. He has a statue outside of the stadium with Nick Foles, but I don't think his return is really going to impact the team. I think the fans will give him a standing O, and it's going to be a little bit emotional for Eagles fans who know he's the only head coach who brought back a Lombardi to this city and organization, but I don't think it'll impact the team all that much. Carol, I sent you that football as well. It should be in the mail from last week's Super Chat. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you can be a part of our shows and you can ask questions like all of the legends and real ones who have today. And as always, thank you so much for all of your support.